Hello everyone, my name is Faberia Pendragon, we are the Whispers, and this is How to Play Mercenary, in Risk of Rain Return. Huh? What about the poll? Yeah, Mercenary jumped to the lead by an order of magnitude in like an hour. It wasn't even close. I mean, Handy was technically in second, but like... Wait. He came back from that? And took first? The next day? Huh. Cool. I've kind of sucked with Merc lately anyways. Big Robo Boy it is. And this is How to Play Handy in Risk of Rain Returns. This will be a comprehensive guide attempting to cover everything from unlock to proper usage of his entire main and alt kits. So if you need to know something, odds are you'll find it here. And oh boy have I been excited for this one. I personally find Handy to be one of the most honest, so to speak, characters in the game. His playstyle is very straightforward. You fucking punch him. He's a brawler who's one of the best equipped to get in and stay in. Where Acrid has to hit and run, Miner and Mercenary need to utilize invincibility frames to be able to stick around a bit longer. Handy is just that. Nothing but straight hands. No changeup, no curveball, just fucking gas. If you couldn't tell, I've been very excited to do this video. Now then, to unlock Handy, you need to make it to the final stage, the UES Contact Light. In one of the cargo holds on the far left of the ship, one of the shipping containers is visibly damaged with its door slightly ajar. Interacting with it will free the robot janitor, unlocking him to be played. Handy's first ability is Hurt. Like I said before, you just punch him. It has heavy knockback and stagger, but is rather slow. Next is Handy's Drone Heal. You gain a drone for each enemy killed for a max of 10 at a time. These drones all have infinite range, home in on enemies automatically, and deal damage before returning to heal you, consuming the drone. This does mean if you make the last hit on an enemy using your drone, you effectively keep it. But the point is, more killing equals more drones. Third is Overclock. You attack faster and gain a 30% boost to your stun chance, but start to build up heat. If that heat gauge maxes out, the ability ends. You can expel some of that heat, of course, by attacking enemies. Each enemy hit counts towards this as well, so hitting crowds can help a lot in keeping this ability going. Last is Forced Reassembly. It is literally just bonk. You walk up to enemies and, or if you'd rather, it knocks enemies up into the air and will also count to relieve heat from your overclock gauge. Additionally, when wielding an Ancient Scepter, this attack also electrocutes enemies. Handy's game plan is simple and honest, but it does require some attentiveness. You can feasibly go into every engagement with your 4 ready, and realistically you'll be able to overclock in each major fight as well, so remember to use them. But you do need to be aware of your drone count at all times and paying attention to your health to make sure you're using them at the right time. Handy is bulky, but not invincible, and there's a delay in you hitting the ability and when you get the heal, since the drone only heals you once it comes all the way back from the enemy it targeted. So if you're at half health, well, you probably should have shot a drone 2 seconds ago. Also, sometimes it's not a bad idea to throw some drones at enemies from far away to keep them off you, even if you're at full health. Overloading elites come to mind since they're the bane of all melee characters, but they really are free damage and they can proc on hit items. So if you need to thin out a crowd before it reaches you, a barrage of drones may not be a bad idea. Handy has 3 ults, 2 for its second ability, and 1 for its final ability. Yes, that does mean we'll sadly have to get rid of our bonk stick, but I promise the trade-off is good. For the alternate drones, you unlock 1 via Providence trial called Routine Maintenance, or by killing 3,000 enemies. Also, I just want to say, I had to beat this before the changes came out that added these healing items and the unstable watch on the right side that trivializes the entire challenge. Holy shit, this was so much harder, trying to do this while Ifrits were trying to beat the hell out of you. Anyways, just grab the watch on the right, use the heals when you need them, free win. You get the other ult by obtaining a golden drone. To get a golden drone, you need to combine 3 level 2 gunner drones, the ones with the chain guns, or in total, 9 of the little level 1 gunner drones. This will normally require looping, but sometimes you get lucky like I did and get your last 2 drones and the combiner station all in one stage. Lastly, for the Alt 4, you need to kill 15 enemies simultaneously with the Saw Meringue equipment item. This can be easily accomplished on its own, but getting the saw in the first place can be a pain, so maybe throw on the command artifact first, then grab a lot of crowbars, let the enemies rack up, and boom, easy ult. Since the most complex thing Handy has is the drones, swapping them out has some interesting effects on how you play the character. I'm saying this now because you may or may not agree with my assessments, and so I encourage you to play around with them yourself. They're both very fun. Drone Speed keeps the utility function of Drone Heal, but replaces the survivability boost with an attack speed boost. There are some important notes here. First, the buff decay timer seems to be reset every time you get a new stack. So as long as you keep killing enemies to keep at least one drone in your hand, you can just toss one out every 5 seconds or so and keep building your speed over and over to an insane degree. If there is a cap, I have yet to hit it. Second, this speed boost does stack with overclock, so you can get basically a persistent speed boost that you can temporarily push even further when you need to. Honestly, this ability makes for some very funny moments of watching Handy violently spasm in the enemy's general direction, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't very effective, partially for reasons I'll explain here in a bit. But first, Drone Blast forgoes your utility function completely, and instead converts your drones from auto-homing utility skills into a high-damage straight-line bomb. The explosion pierces a small distance, and each drone does the same damage as a strike from forced reassembly. So these things are no joke. But there's one more thing I've got to show you. That's right, we got more movement tech, boys, let's go! By holding jump with auto jump on, and spamming the ever-living hell out of your secondary key, the pushback from each shot stacks up, eventually launching you across the stage. This huge movement bursts, of course, comes at the cost of all your drones, but it's still very useful. Remember how I said we'd talk about a reason speed drones are really good? Here it is. Disassemble replaces your bonk stick with a massive saw. You hold the ability key to prepare it, and while held you can move slowly to get your positioning just right, then release the key to let loose a ton of damage. Damage that scales, based on attack speed. That's right, speed drones plus overclock plus saw means... Without movement speed buffs, it does slightly less than hammer, but with speed boosts, it is truly insane. Additionally, it's much better at relieving overclock heat, nearly always resetting the gauge completely so long as you hit the attack, of course. Additionally, when wielding an ancient scepter, this attack also burns enemies over time. Short version, run speed with saw, blast with hammer, since if enemies get too close, hammer does a better job of stunning with its knockup, and with both abilities, since you lose the inherent self-sustain of your kit, you'll have to start playing a little more hit and run. The difference lies in how you hit. Blast offers overall more consistent damage and allows you to hit hard up close and at range. So if you struggle with certain elites... Nerf overloading elites, please! It can be good to keep them away from you or drop cards from a distance, but speed gives you these exponential spikes in damage throughout the course of your run, where at first you have to play a bit cautious, get your drones, establish your early speed boosts, then suddenly it just ramps and you can hold forward and slaughter everything like the war machine you were always meant to be, repeating the cycle if and when your buff drops. That being said, I think speed is the trickiest to use at peak effectiveness, but it also has the highest peak effectiveness of the three. Your best three options are fully stock loadout if you like being an up-close brawler who can sustain themselves, blast and hammer if you want a more consistent and higher damage with better range even if it means giving up the heal, and speed and saw for a more technical melee playstyle where you need to be constantly keeping your buff in mind. They're all very effective, very honest and straightforward, and all very good. While Handy's abilities and playstyle can change a decent bit, the items that are most effective for him remains the same. First, I'm going to highlight that anything on kill, including Ceremonial Dagger my beloved, of course, praise be to Nukahana, is fantastic on Handy. His main and arguably most important ability is gained by kills, so having kills give you even more mileage is fantastic. In the white rarity, getting those kills is much easier with a rusty knife in your hands. The bleed damage is determined by the amount you actually hit for, since it does 4 ticks of 35% total damage, and since Handy generally hits with the approximate force of a fucking truck, those bleed ticks hurt. Fire Shield is also great, since you're likely to be taking hits a lot anyways. Speaking of taking hits, any items that help you do that while being safer are huge. I already mentioned on kills being great, so of course Monster Tooth is being mentioned here, and Topaz Brooch also goes crazy on Handy. While Meat Nugget is always solid for melee survivors, since the meat tends to drop near you. And for once, Bitterroot is worth mentioning, because Handy has a lot of health to start with and gets a bunch per level, so its 8% health boost is much more noticeable over other survivors. In the green category, aside from the obvious on kills, Tough Times and Guardian's Heart can make you even harder to put down, while Insecticide is nice damage over time and a healing combo, and Ukulele can be very nice for spreading your already high damage across a crowd since it also does percent of total damage like Rusty Knife. For the reds, praise be to Nukahana, obviously, but Tesla Coil is great on any melee character, as I've mentioned in previous videos. And for once, I'm actually going to put Scepter here, since the additional effects for both abilities are pretty nice. Lastly, how can I talk about how defensive and tanky items as well as on kills are good for Handy and not put Interstellar, Deskplant, and Aegis on here? Absolutely fantastic items for Handy. With equipment, I think Handy is the only survivor I would really run drone repair kits on, since drones can be really nice for dealing some damage at range. But let's be honest with ourselves, Handy is a melee character. If you've seen my other guides, you already know what I'm gonna say. Supermassive Leech. Additionally, if you're running the speed build, prescriptions are really good. Lastly, for boss items, in the name of tank, Scorching Shell Piece. This shield on top of all the other shield items, it's just wow. Local robot literally too angry to die. Alternatively, since other than prescriptions, none of the equipment items really stand out as synergizing specifically with Handy's kit, Nematosis Nozzle is always solid, and for the same reason as Bitterroot, Handy has enough base health that Colossal Knurl is going to make a very noticeable difference almost immediately, especially when combined with Bitterroot and Mysterious Vial. And that's about it. Of course, subscribe for more, like the video, you've been on YouTube before, you know what buttons to hit, but I genuinely would very much appreciate it if you did hit said buttons. Also, to all my Handy mains, please feel free to drop extra tidbits in the comments below. I love that these videos have become small repositories of knowledge for new and old players alike, whether it be someone brand new to the franchise or an experienced player trying one of these characters for the first time or who's new to the 2D Risk of Rain. Almost everyone has been able to learn something here, and that's in large part due to you guys all adding on to the information shared, so thank you. Also, if you want to help decide who gets a guide next, subscribe so you'll see the polls I do to decide. Anyways, I hope to see you all again very soon. Take it easy.